Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. See, another reason why Putin is not a European and he doesn't embrace the European values. Okay, this is the evidence right here. Putin signs law banning quote-unquote sex change in Russia. The legislation prohibits medical interventions linked to transitioning, except when they are needed to treat birth abnormalities. So, if he signed the law probably was voted by Duma and then by and the legislators. So, that's very concerning. Let's go to this article right here, which says the same thing under a different kind of milder title from Sputnik. Putin signs law banning gender reassignment. And again, the relevant document is published at the official legal information portal. On July 19, the legislation was adopted by Federation Council, the upper house of the Russian parliament, a week after the lower house adopted it at the plenary session in the third reading. So this is really, these guys conspired right there. The whole thing, all the elected officials, Russian representatives, of the public. According to the document, gender change will be allowed only for medical reasons. Among other things, it proposes to annul a marriage if one of the spouses changes gender and ban a person from adopting children after gender reassignment. Wow. The norms will not apply to those who have changed their gender before the day the legislation goes into effect. No retro. Good. Russian President, the legislation aimed at tighter regulation of what MPs described as the transgender, quote-unquote, transgender industry. That's how the Russian MPs described it. Man, these guys are bad people. Bans legal sex changes and medical interventions associated with transitioning except due to serious medical grounds. Administrations of drugs and surgeries associated with gender reassignment therapy will now only be permitted in cases that require treatment of reproductive organs deformities in children. Only licensed clinics linked to the Russian Health Ministry, state-owned, can now make decision on such treatments and issue relevant certificates, the legislation says. So they don't let it to the private guys to make a profit out of people. People can also no longer freely change their sex on IDs and other documents. Those who did so may not adopt children under the new law. Married couples can also have their marriages declared invalid if one of the spouses changes their sex. According to Russian Deputy Health Minister Evgenia Kutova, over 2,000 people legally changed their sex in the country between 2018 and 2022, when the practice was legal. State Duma Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin blasted what he called the Western transgender industry, that's how he said it, as he defended the reasoning behind the law. The number of gender reassignment surgeries in the US has increased by 50 times over the past 10 years, he said, adding that around 1.4% of the US teenagers aged between 13 and 17 identified themselves as transgender in 2022. Well, 1.4%. God made a lot of mistakes, seems like. All right, or nature. And I'm quoting, "This is the path leading to the degradation of a nation," end quote, he said, stating that the newly adopted law was designed to avoid such a scenario. The legislation still allows for the treatment of relevant diseases, and I'm quoting, "There are conditions that can be identified during childhood," end quote, he said, and I'm quoting again, "Yet, when a person changes sex because they woke up in the morning and decided they are not a boy but a girl, that is just wrong," end quote, the Duma had explained. According to, these guys are haters, man. Very hateful. Jesus Christ. According to top Russian Senator Valentina Matvienko, the law has received, and I'm quoting, many positive responses from European nations. Poland, Hungary, and trans rights activists still blasted the law, arguing that it seriously diminishes the rights of transgender persons in Russia. Critics also claim that the legislation's wording creates uncertainty related to treatment of certain diseases not linked to gender reassignment procedures, like mastectomy for women genetically predisposed to breast cancer. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Monday that all such issues had been reviewed by experts, with the bill's text was still being debated in parliament. While the bill text was still debated in parliament, and I'm quoting, all those questions were answered, end quote, he said, adding that risks associated with the law had been minimized. Wow. Now you would expect now a lot of immigration out of Russia, right? Maybe some immigration as well. Immigration. Well, this is why we try to defend our values here in the West, and that's why we fight them in Ukraine, I think, to defend our freedoms and democracy and the Western values. And yeah. All right, my friends, this is it. This is Putin, this is Russia, and that was done if you by the, I don't know, democratic channels. People got elected, they voted. It's like tomorrow, these guys here in the Senate, in the House, they start voting about, I don't know, for this and for that, and then President Biden signs it, goes to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court says, yes, it's constitutional, and it becomes law. In this case, these guys follow the same route, but they're bad. All right, got that? All right, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.